When you find yourself in that small business chaos where you're overwhelmed, there's just not enough hours in the day and your systems and processes are insufficient. The way out of that is actually mapping your business. As you know, you can't automate until you map what's going on in the business. So, I say all the time, we help people go from chaos to freedom through automation. But the first step is understanding your map, and you're having a playbook to do that. So if people want to understand that better, they can go to keap.com. That's Keap with a K, KEAP.com/playbook. Keap.com/playbook to learn more about business process mapping and getting automation in place, and then conquerthechaosbook.com to get a copy of the book and free resources.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Break Free podcast. My name is David Mansilla. I am your host. And for the last 4 years, we have been interviewing incredible people that are changing this world for a better place with their enterprises and their exceptional leadership skills. Today, we have with us Clate Mask. Brother, welcome to the show.
David, great to be with you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Clate, for the audience, and also to make sure my pronunciation of your name was correct.
You got it.
Can you give me your full name? Where do you live? And what do you do for a living?
You bet. Clate Mask, co-founder and CEO of Keap. Keap is the leading small business automation platform for 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses that are tired of the chaos and they want more growth, profit, and freedom. We help them go from chaos to freedom through automation.
It's beautiful. Now, Keap, the name is very familiar. But can you give me a point of reference? How do you guys automate small businesses?
Yeah, you bet. We started the business many years ago as Infusionsoft, which was the market leader for marketing automation. And then we went through some different things over the years. And then we came out the other side just a couple of years ago, changed the name of the company to Keap. It stands for the grit of entrepreneurs, KEAP, keep going, keep growing. And our automation is all about helping small businesses automate not only the marketing process, so from lead to getting that new customer, but the whole sales conversion process, the customer service experience. Once you bring on a new client, how do you turn that customer into a raving fan? And then really importantly, the internal operations, the tasks, the checklists, all the different processes that people need to do inside the business to make it run smoothly. That's where a lot of the profit of a business leaks out, and a lot of the time gets consumed with redundant manual tasks. And that repetition is what causes businesses that might be growing in revenue to not grow in profit and freedom in terms of hours and control for the business owner and employees. So that's what we do. We help them automate their marketing, sales, service, internal operations, so they can get more growth, but more importantly, the profit and the freedom.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember also the name Infusionsoft. It was very popular.
Yep.
Did you suffer at all when you changed the name? Because I guess that was a radical change, right?
Yeah. So what we did was we wanted to take Infusionsoft to smaller businesses, the solopreneurs. 90% of small businesses are just one person. And our Infusionsoft product was not designed for that kind of a customer. So we wanted to simplify it for them. We created a beautiful UI, beautiful user experience, but we took away a lot of the power. And what we found was customers, although they liked the beautiful UI, it didn't really matter if it didn't bring the power of automation. So what Keap did was Keap brought the beautiful UI combined with the power of Infusionsoft's marketing automation, and we've added to it the sales, the service, the internal operations. So now Keap is kind of the best of both worlds. It's the power and the ease, and we focus on customers that have 2 to 100 employees. The sweet spot for us is about 5 to 25 employees.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have a very focused target market, and that's why you guys are successful. One of the things that I see on entrepreneurs, including myself, is that it takes them a long time to figure out who their ideal client is, client persona, right?
That's right.
So you try to sell to everybody, and then you don't focus, and if you don't focus, you don't grow, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And for us, even when we were, as Infusionsoft, when we tried to go down market, that's what messed everything up. It's like, no, you gotta have your solution aimed at the segment of the market that can really use it, that really has the problem that you solve. And what we learned was the solopreneurs don't really have that problem where they have too many things that are slipping through the cracks. They're not getting back to customers, and their internal processes are slipping. They don't have that problem yet because they don't have enough customers and enough business to create that kind of chaos. So once they actually have the chaos, as we call it, which comes from not enough hours in the day and insufficient processes and systems, then they need to do the automation work to get to the growth, profit, and freedom that they want.
That's beautiful. Clate, let's look back in time. How long have you founded this company?
22 years.
How long?
22 years. Yep.
22 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder the name is very popular. It's in my mind all the time.
Yeah. So what happened was we started as a custom software company, and we spent about 5 years doing custom software before we really got to our product, Infusionsoft. And then with Infusionsoft, we really created a marketing automation solution for small businesses. David, at the time, marketing automation didn't even exist when we took it. We created this thing. It was CRM. It was very marketing oriented. And we decided to start calling it marketing automation because that's what enterprises and mid-market companies were calling it. But it didn't exist for small businesses. We pioneered it with Infusionsoft. And so we built Infusionsoft all the way for about 10 more years after that. And then we tried to go down market, and it totally messed us up. And we ended up coming out on the other side with that beautiful UI and had to marry it back up with the power. And now we're taking it out to the market as business automation, not just marketing automation.
That is beautiful, Clate. I mean, one of the things that I admire is your capacity to get rid of a services-based company into a software as a service company.
There was a great art to that.
Now you have recurrent revenue. But
yes.
I tell you that because, I've run 7 different companies, 6 of them are in technology. My flagship company is a custom software solutions company, just like the one you used to have. And I tried to turn it into a software product company, and I never was able to do it. But what I did instead is I spun off other companies with other partners that were product based, and that started to work.
Yes.
But transforming my main business into a product, I almost went bankrupt a couple of times trying to do it, and I couldn't do it. So
did I.
Right? Because it's hard, right? Like
it's incredibly hard. It's
especially
really,
when
really
you're
hard.
getting, when you're getting like 5-figure checks, 6-figure checks
Right.
for your work, and then you get $10 per month per user. It's like, how much do I need to sell to scale this?
You are exactly right. And the bigger you get in your service business, the harder it is to turn it into a SaaS business, a subscription company. So what you did makes a ton of sense. If you can't convert the core business into a subscription business, then the alternative is you have the core business spinning off, new businesses that come out of those products that you create, like you've done. I'll tell you what we did. It was very difficult, and I think it only worked because we were small enough. We were bringing in, maybe $25,000, $30,000 a month as the 3 of us. There was me and 2 other partners. And so what we did at that point, when we were at that time, we were a custom software company. We were trading hours for dollars on these custom projects. And the first step that we did was, because you just said it perfectly, it's really hard to go from a project that's going to pay you tens of thousands of dollars in most cases, or even if it's 5 or 10,000, like it pays you real money that keeps the lights on, and you can't get away from that to get a few 10, 20, 50 bucks a month from a customer. So here's what we did. The first step was we took the core of our product, which was the customer database at the heart of what we do, and we called it the CRM core. And then what we did is we sold, instead of selling custom projects, we would sell semi-custom CRM projects where you bought the core for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and then we charged you hourly for the things that we would build around that. And it would still end up being a $10,000, $15,000 project, but we got a chunk of money for that core at the
Right.
the customer database at the center of it. Then what we did was we started to get to where the reusable components of the product were greater and greater, so that we could sell our semi-custom solution more as more of it was built, and then you just had to add on a little bit. So you could see how it went from fully custom to semi-custom with a core to semi-custom where ideally we were only adding 10 or 20 or 30% customization. And then we got to the point where our semi-custom was we would only do a little bit of customization. And as we did all of that during our day job, at night, we were getting our first products created where we could sell it as a complete product solution. Now, between you and me, there's a very fine line between a semi-custom product that has 10 or 20% of customizations to it versus a new beta product that you take all the user feedback and you're making the product better for everybody. But
Right.
the difference is that when you have a product, now you can sell it repeatedly to people. For example, our very first product was a CRM product for mortgage brokers. So we went from custom to semi-custom CRM to slightly customized CRM to a mortgage CRM product. And then once we had that vertical product, then that took us down the path where we could get a really well built out horizontal CRM solution, which a year or two later we started calling it marketing automation. But that what I just described to you was about a 6-year journey.
And it's hard, Clate. That's
Very.
why we have, I was so blessed. I've been so blessed enough that I've been in the market for 19 years now, my business. And a lot of my clients turn out to be well-funded startups that want to build product software. That's how I learned how the whole product software business gets evolved.
Yeah.
And the normal path to do what you pulled off is to have investors give you $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million
Right.
in investment to build out the product, to do the product market fit, and ensure that there is enough appetite in the market to supply you with the software as a service. Now,
That's
why
right.
those people invest so much money on a software as a service project? Well, it's a subscription base, so it's a recurring revenue system. 99.9% of all the investors in the world are looking for companies that are generating revenue on a monthly basis because it's predictable.
That's
so
right.
that if you add more marketing, you can just grow your market share and you make more money. And
Yep.
they tend to be, if you run it well, a software as a service company tend to be high margins on profits,
Right.
right? But
Yep.
it's incredible hard to do that. I mean,
Oh, it's so hard.
it's
And
not.
what you just described is the normal way of starting a software company. You get investors behind you. But here's the thing, and this, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners know this, but when you get investors behind you at the beginning like that, you lose your edge on sales. You lose a little bit of your sense of having to make it work for the customer. That getting you don't have any choice but to make it work when you're bootstrapped. You have to make it work. And even though you might feel like once you have investors you have to make it work, I lived it both ways. We bootstrapped the business to $7 million a year in revenue before we raised venture capital. And we didn't raise capital until we had a product that had a good recurring revenue stream and customers that we could put onto that monthly subscription. So I don't wish for it to take 6 years for people like it did for us. That was long and hard, and it was very, very difficult. But even if you do it with investors, it does usually take a couple years to do what I just described.
Yeah. And 6 years, I bet if there were nightless sleeps, there were problems at home because you were overworking,
Yep.
and you committed to your vision, and that's why you're so successful now. By the way, putting venture capital after 7 million, after 5 million is the smartest thing to do for both, for the investors and for the entrepreneur, because now you have something that is profitable that you can scale. Now
Right.
you can throw money at it and just grows exponentially with very minimum risk.
Yep.
But that's, I will say, that's probably 10% of the market that does that.
That's
Most
right.
companies, they just raise the money and they go, and that's why 90% of the startups fail.
That's right.
And millions are lost every year.
You got
Right.
it. You're exactly right. I invest in software companies. I love helping entrepreneurs grow, and it's an important thing that I do. But I don't invest in software companies that aren't producing revenue yet. I just don't do it. It's because it's too risky. You have to learn how to sell first. If you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to create a product that solves the problem for your customer. I don't want to be the investor that's putting the money behind that. I want to wait till the entrepreneur has figured that out. And I know what it was like when we were figuring it out. And the difference between an entrepreneur that is successful in getting their software out to the market and one who's not, it comes down to little tiny things late at night, little things where you're coming up with an idea or something clicks, and you just have to be all in a way that you have to make it work. And sometimes I just see, software founders who they think that the answer is to go get investors and then they can, have a path to success. And, that's just not my experience. It is a hard, gritty, tenacious job to go get your product into the market. And I like to bank on entrepreneurs or invest in entrepreneurs who have demonstrated that grit.
You're right, Clate. My mentors when I was growing up as an entrepreneur were two ladies that they founded their own software company, but they did products from scratch. They wanted to create an accounting system for schools administrators, because usually school boards, the way they work is you have the school board like a head office, and then you have 500, 1,000 schools under it, and all the accounting is done on the enterprise level. The problem is that they figured out back in the 90s, 1997, is that the cash accounting, all the accounting that happens at the counter at the principal's office, is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day, depending on the size of the school. And if you amalgamate that among all the schools, it was a mess. And these ladies were both school managers. They got together and they hired me. I was still a full-time employee. And they hired me at night to start writing the software because they didn't know anything about software development.
Yeah.
So I was employee number 1, or I will say investor number 3. And this was on the side, right? Then I started my own company, and then they hired my company to continue the product. And we were working until 4 a.m. for at least 5 years. Right. Mind you, I had other clients on my software consulting firm. But it went to a point where they were 1 month away from being bankrupt, and they could no longer pay my bills. So they told me, if you are willing to delay your billing or exchange it for shares, we're willing to give you 5% of the company. And I didn't know anything about business back then. I'm talking 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
I just started my company in 2005. I went into business full time in 2005. But I've been working with them since 1997 at night. So I told them, you guys, I'm gonna do this not because I don't care about the money. I just want to support your cause because I am so grateful for you for all the things that you have taught me. So I don't remember, it was 2 or 3 years without pay.
Wow.
And we kept doing it. And guess what? An investor showed up. They injected, I think it was like $1 million or $2 million into the business. That got it into a $5 million venture, and then they invested $10 million more. And the thing exploded, Clay. It exploded to the point that my shares got diluted from 5% to 0.5%. But when the company sold in 2013, it set me free for life.
Oh, it's so great.
Because it became the largest school accounting software in North America.
Wow. What was the software?
the software, basically it runs all the cash accounting in the system. But what we invented, to your point, like those little nice things, we invented the student card. And it wasn't my idea, it was the founder's idea. But we implemented the student card where kids didn't have to bring cash anymore. They created something called cashless schools. So they had a card, we had a portal where parents could deposit money to the kids' card, but because they were using the card to spend money in the school, they could see everything that they were spending. So it was very great for parenting too.
Right. It's awesome.
Right?
Love it.
And that's the thing that got it past $100 million. And it kept growing past that. We sold at about $100 million.
What was the company called?
The company's still around. I think it's called Keap Group now.
Okay, got it. That's really cool. But your point, that's the thing, is you were willing to work, burning the midnight oil, doing work without getting paid. And that's a lot of times what it looks like for software founders. You're doing a ton of work, pouring into it. Everybody thinks, oh, wow, you had this big overnight success story. When Infusionsoft was loud in the market, people are like, oh yeah, you guys just, they don't see the years and years and years that goes on behind the scenes to get the product to that point. And that's how most software founders and success stories are. It takes a long time. People, it's the 10-year overnight success story.
Yeah, Clate. And yes, there might be people that they find a way to do it in a couple of years. And I have seen people that go from zero to a unicorn in 5 years, for example, like a $1 billion valuation. But those guys are like maybe one in a 200 billion chances. And if they are not ready for the wealth, it ruins their life.
Right.
So
yeah, there are some situations.
I did it.
Yeah. Right. No, you're right. Sometimes you see those rare situations where the business just explodes super fast, but most of the times those aren't very pretty outcomes either. It looks a little bit more like lottery winners and what their future looks like after. But the reality is there are very few software wins that aren't many, many years in the making. Most of them take a long time. And, I've invested in software companies that, 10 years ago that are just starting to have some big success, and it's like, it take these things, the gestation period is very long for software companies.
And, I'm a man of faith. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And when I look at my life back, I realize that if the Lord would allow me to have the wealth that I have now, I would have been completely ruined. I would have destroyed my marriage. I would have destroyed my kids. Everything that really matters in my life, I would have lost.
Right. I hear you on that too, for sure.
Tell me, Clate, to begin with, why did you guys decide to start a software company? What was in your mind? How did it get going?
Yeah. We started as a custom software company, and then as we began to create our product in kind of like year 2, we began using it ourselves for the CRM capabilities. And then we started using it more and more and building it out for what we needed. And once we got to where we were using the automation and we could see the impact of what happens when you automate follow-up with prospects and customers, once that began to produce results in our own business as we were using it, it was like, oh my gosh, small businesses need this, because follow-up is such a huge problem for them. And it's still today, even 15 years later, so many people just really struggle to follow up with their prospects and customers. Mm-hmm. But when you put automation in place, it changes everything. So the reason that we decided to really go for it, because the truth is, David, early on, I thought, well, we'll just build this up and we'll sell it, make some money and move on. But once we got through that bootstrapping phase, we started to catch the real vision of what the business could be. And by the way, that's why we raised venture capital, because we could see this being $100 million plus business, and we recognized we needed capital to do it. But what we saw was we fell in love with this problem of manual process, manual follow-up that falls through the cracks, and the need for automation. And as we used it, and as we saw our customers using it, we wanted more and more businesses to get it and to see, to discover the magic of automation and what a game changer it is for small businesses. So once we had that fire, that passion, we could see the vision of so many, the need for small businesses to get this kind of a solution. And that's why we decided to raise venture capital.
That's beautiful. Did you ever write code yourself?
No, I don't. My two co-founders do, but I don't.
That's amazing. And
when I joined my co-founders, the deal was they do everything. They do nothing but write software, and I do everything except write software. that was the deal.
And you know what, Clate? That's why you guys are successful, because you figure out that you had complementing skills.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. If you've read Michael Gerber's E-Myth, Michael's a longtime friend of mine. He wrote the foreword to my book. But when he talks about the tech, in a business, you need the technician, the manager, and the visionary. And what we had was, I'm the manager. I had a technician who was first and foremost the technician, and then another partner who, although he was a software coder, he was really the visionary. And so that technician, visionary, manager, that all came together, and it started off, and the three of us got the business going, and then over time we added employees, and we have hundreds of employees now, and it's fun to see them doing things that way better than we ever could do them back in those days. You're wearing all the hats and doing all the different things, and it's fun when you get to start hiring specialists that do the thing, that write copy, and that's all they do, and that do design, and that's all they do. And back then you're trying to do it all.
And that's why I love the way our market works. You and I, we live in the free world, and still free. They're trying to attack that, but you came from out of nothing. You got together with two coders, and you were able to create an enterprise that hires hundreds of people, and it took you a long time to figure that out, and
yes.
a lot of tears and bloodshed. But now you're there, and now you're allowing people to thrive in their own environments with the specialty that they love. That's called capitalism, and that's why I love it.
That's right,
isn't it?
It is. It's amazing, and you learn as an entrepreneur. You do what you do best. You delegate the rest, and you let those people specialize. Bring everybody together around a common vision, purpose, values, mission. It's a lot of fun.
Out of the entire 20 plus years of your business existence, what has been the worst problem that you encountered, and how did you overcome that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say the worst problem we ever had was when many years ago we moved away from, this was, Infusionsoft was going, things were going fine. We had venture capitalists, the business was probably doing 20 million a year or so in revenue at that point. And we required a service package to help the customer get implemented properly. And that service package was like $5,000. And then their software subscription was like, $200 or $300 a month. And we wanted to get more customers onto the platform. And so we decided to make the implementation package optional. And what happened was, when you made it optional, nobody wanted to do it. Everybody said, oh no, I don't need that. I don't need that. So we started selling the software without the service package, the implementation. And we got a lot more customers, but after a few months, the churn just exploded, because it took us a while to really understand it in detail. We knew what was going on, of course. Well, they didn't pay for services, so now they're not getting implemented properly. Because what happens in business automation, it's not like, hey, I'm just going to send out some emails. It's, you got to understand your customer strategy. You got to understand the life cycle and what happens when a customer starts with you all the way through the process. You have to figure out, well, which things do I automate? There's a lot of strategy to figure out. It's where most of the waste and leakage happens in a business. They don't understand, business owners don't naturally understand how to move people through that process in a very seamless, efficient way. And when you give them software, that by itself doesn't solve the problem. They need to know what to do, how to put the strategy in place. Well, when we took away the service package, churn exploded, investors were upset, started causing all kinds of problems in the business, and it almost killed us. almost
Wow.
killed us. For about 18 months, we ran the business that way. Churn was very high. We did all kinds of things to try to get customers to get on the phone with us, get the software implemented properly. But when they didn't invest in a service package, they wouldn't do the things we needed them to do. So that almost killed the business. And then we put a more streamlined implementation package in place that's about $1,000. And when we did that, it fixed the business.
That's beautiful. So you lower the cost of entry, which allows you to have more customers, but you still have the certainty that they are implementing properly, right?
Yeah, we kind of went from too expensive on the implementation to not enough to just right.
That's amazing. And how many years were you in business when you almost went bankrupt?
Let's see, that was 2011. 2011. So we had been in business about 9 years at that point.
So listen to the statistics, right? Because most businesses go bankrupt within 2 years. And the companies that make it to 10 are very rare. But once you pass 10, if you keep improving and improvising and you keep innovating, it's just like me, right? 19 years in business. You're like 20, how much? 23 years in business?
Yep, 22.
Incredible.
Yep.
Congratulations, because like I said, this is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, right?
Very true. That's very true.
How do you guys get together to form the business? Like, were you like college friends, or how do you guys get?
It was beautiful. I married their older sister.
Oh, so they're family.
We're family. So I married their older sister. I knew how smart they were, a few years after. We started the business many years after our marriage. So it wasn't like I knew them, and they were teenagers when we got married. And after a few years, I had been working in a software company, and they had started dabbling in software themselves. And I started to see the things they were creating. And I was like, man, these guys are really smart. And so right about the time 9/11 hit, I had a change in my career, and I started thinking about doing something more entrepreneurial. And it was really 9/11 that forced me to go out of corporate America and into entrepreneurship. And I started talking to my wife's two younger brothers who were doing custom software at that point. And that's how it all came together.
Isn't that beautiful how destiny puts everything together?
Yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
I call it fate, right? But it's like when you look at an event like 9/11 or the market crash in 2008, when you look at a disaster that is unavoidable and it shakes your ground, if you apply yourself, you can grab that tragedy to catapult you to the next level, isn't it?
Always, yep. No doubt about it. And that's why it's so important to stay positive through that, because that's how where you find the opportunities. I in my book, I talk all about mindset and getting, my book is Conquer the Chaos, the 6 Keys to Success for Entrepreneurs. And the first key is mindset. You got to have that mindset right. And that mindset that identifies opportunity out of challenge, that mindset that stays positive even when things are tough. Doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to it, but you confront the challenges, but you stay positive through that. That's the essential skill of an entrepreneur.
Let's talk a little bit more about the book. What inspired you to write a book? By the way, I wrote my first book. I put the table of content in 2013, and to get the momentum, I started writing in 2019. And thanks to COVID, talking about another disaster, to COVID, I was able to release it in 2020. So it's not an easy thing to do, especially your first book. Tell me, what was in your mind to go into these crazy, complicated things?
Yeah. You can appreciate it. What happened was my co-founder and I wrote Conquer the Chaos 14 years ago when we were launching marketing automation. And we wrote it because people were asking us all the time, like, what do you do? They were asking us all these questions. We're like, let's just put it in a book. So we did it really initially 14 years ago to put what we had learned about automation into the book. So we wrote it back then, but last year I turned 50. I saw how much things had changed from marketing automation to business automation. And I had learned so much in the past 15 years that I was like, we've had this blessing of being able to see hundreds of thousands of small businesses and what works and what doesn't work and where people get stuck and why they get stuck. And it was an opportunity for me to take all the things that I've learned and taught and really just put it into one book that is the book I wish I could have read 20 years ago. And so the book started off as a revised edition. I reached out to my co-founder who works in our product team, and I said, hey, I want to do the revision. I think with business automation, it's time for us to do this. And he said, I do think it's time for us to do it, but why don't you do it this time? So I wrote it. And when I started to get into it, I realized there's so much that it really is about 90% new content. It's almost the title is the same, but the subtitle is different. The original was Conquer the Chaos, How to Grow a Small Business Without Going Crazy. The second, the revised edition is Conquer the Chaos, the 6 Keys to Success for Entrepreneurs. And so I just took everything we've learned and taught over the years, and I put it into the keys. The first 3 keys are personal, mindset, life vision, and a rhythm of execution for entrepreneurs. And then the second 3 keys 4, 5, and 6 are strategy, automation, and leadership. But that's why I wrote it. Basically, I turned 50 and felt like I wanted to leave a legacy. Number 2, business automation, not just marketing automation. Number 3, all the things we learned and taught. I felt like I just wanted to pour into one book. It became a labor of love. I had a blast writing it, but it was hard. And this is not a ghost written book. This is not a co-written book. This is me in a hotel room for a lot of weeks.
That is beautiful, Clayton. Thank you for your time on doing that. There's nothing more beautiful than leaving a legacy, and people actually take the time and read. That's why I have this podcast. I want this podcast to be at least a great chapter of the best business book in the world.
I love it.
And it's because I'm grabbing all these marks from all the people and all their failures and how they turn them into success stories later on, like you.
Yes,
right?
I love it. Glad to be a part of it.
If people want to buy your book, where can they get it?
Yeah, they can go to conquerthechaosbook.com. You can get the book on there. There's a bunch of free resources on there, but conquerthechaosbook.com. And then for people who, if they feel like they're in chaos, when you find yourself in that small business chaos where you're overwhelmed, there's just not enough hours in the day and your systems and processes are insufficient, the way out of that is actually mapping your business. As you know, you can't automate until you map what's going on in the business. So, I say all the time, we help people go from chaos to freedom through automation, but the first step is understanding your map, and you're having a playbook to do that. So if people want to understand that better, they can go to keap.com. That's keep with a K, keap.com/playbook. Keap.com/playbook to learn more about business process mapping and getting automation in place, and then conquerthechaosbook.com to get a copy of the book and free resources.
It's beautiful. And that's why I was looking forward to this interview, because I love business automation. One of the things that had made me the person that I am is that I could see patterns all the time and where the problem was in the patterns or the flow.
Yes.
And then once you identify that, create a prototype to see that the new processes are much better. Once you know that it's much better, then you automate that process. Because a lot of companies will hire me in the past to automate their business process. And I said, if you automate that, you're going to get worse results faster, because it's the same problem, just automated. You have to fix now, if your process is working great, of course, you automate and then you can scale. Not if it's messy, you have to reestablish your process.
That's right. Exactly.
Clate, it's almost been 40 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to ask you one last question before we finish the podcast.
You bet.
If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
That's a really great question. I would write from chaos to freedom through automation.
Beautiful. And that's, if people could actually do that, we will have more entrepreneurs without so many failures.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Because people really burn out because they don't know how to automate their processes.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pay, right? Like you and I were talking about. You have to pay the rite of passage at the beginning of your business. But if you don't learn how to automate your process, you will always end up bankrupt.
That's right. That's right. And you can even get your marketing and sales right and grow revenue, but you're not getting the profit that you wanted. You're not getting that take-home pay. You're not getting more hours, more freedom. What I write about in the book, it's about freedom And yet people get so caught up that they don't get the profit and the freedom that they thought they were going to get in the first place. So yeah, my billboard says go from chaos to freedom through automation.
Fantastic, Clate. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks, David. God bless you too. Great to talk with you. Take care.
Blessings.
We'll see you.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.